it's Jennifer with Astrology. Welcome to my channel. I am going to continue our series on getting to know your natal chart by introducing you to the glyphs and the planets, or the glyphs for the planets. So first we're going to start out with the luminaries. So the luminaries are what they sound like. So they are what illuminates the sky. First we have the sun, and then we have the moon. Those are our two luminaries. So first we're going to start with the sun. The sun is our essence. It's our vitality. It's what gives us drive, motivation, what kind of is our life force. The glyph for the sun is a circle with a dot in the middle. So, pretty self-explanatory, just circle dot. So again, when you are looking at your natal chart and you want to see where your sun placement is, you want to be looking for this. And then you want to look, if you remember back on the grid, on the actual natal chart, you want to find in what pie shape it's in, what sign it's in, and then what house it's in. The sun is the natural ruler of Leo. So when you think of Leo, you think of the sun, it's all about revolving around it. And just like the sun, Leo has a presence about it that draws people in. It's Leo the lion. It's the big mane and the presence it has that makes, it want to have followers, and they have a pride. The lion will have its pride surrounding them, and where the sun will have its planets surrounding them. Because ultimately, all the planets that we talk about are going around the sun. So now, with the sun, when you are born, pretty much it's if your doctor, your mother, for instance, say you're laying outside, and you given birth, you look up in the sky and boom, takes a picture. That's what the natal chart is. It's exactly where everything was at the exact moment that you came into this world as a physical human being. So the sun placement, it's the monthly usually, and then you have your moon placement and everything else, and that's all what shows up in the natal chart. Every single thing on that chart, every planet means something in your life, and to everybody else it's going to mean something different, and it really just depends on where it falls in your chart. So again, the sun sign, it's your vitality, your force, your life force. It's what gets you going. It's kind of makes up a little bit of who you are, along with your ascendant and your moon, and everything else for that matter. So next we're going to move on to our other luminary. The other luminary is the moon. It can go either way. There we go. So now the moon is kind of like your gut. It's your feelings, it's your wants, it's your desires, it's your the way you nurture, the way you want to be nurtured. It's your kind of like your how you were brought up almost. It's your mother figure. Anything that you can think of that's like a nurturing kind of feel to it. So the moon is the natural ruler of Cancer. So if you have your moon in Cancer, it's in what's called its dignity. So when they're in the sign that they naturally rule, like the sun would be Leo, the moon would be Cancer, then they are said to be in their dignity. So we'll also have a little talk about that as well. So when you're looking at dignities, it's what they rule. And then they have their debilities, and every planet has their dignities and their debilities. So when we went to the chart before, we talked about polarity. So polarity is on the opposite spectrum. So when you look at, say, the sun, and it rules Leo, the opposite of Leo would be Aquarius. So it would be in its detriment in Aquarius because it's in its dignity in Leo. So that means it's happiest in Leo, and it's a lot less happier. It's more of an issue when it's in Aquarius. So Now we're going to the moon. The moon is in its dignity when it is in Cancer, and when it is in its debility, it would be in Capricorn, because Capricorn is on the opposite spectrum, or it's in the polarity to Cancer. So again, the moon is about feelings, nurturing, mothering, that type of thing, the wants, needs. So those are our two luminaries. Next we move on to what we call our personal planets. So our personal planets are the ones that are closest, the kind of the next in line. They kind of make up, about us and our personalities and things like that. So personal planets. The first one that we have is Mercury. So Mercury is this little, kind of looks like a little man with devil horns. So Mercury is about communication, it's about our style of learning, it's about the way we process knowledge, the way that we can teach others. It can also mean, Mercury is very speedy, depending on where it falls in your chart, depends on how you would process information. It's also known as the trickster, so depending, again, how it falls in your chart, you could be a little jokester. Just, again, you want to check that. So, when you're looking at Mercury, Mercury is in its dignity. It actually rules two planets. So, it rules Virgo and it rules Gemini. So, it's happiest when it's in either Virgo or Gemini. So, if you think about it being in its detriment, it's going to be in those opposite signs. So in Gemini, would the opposite of that would be Sagittarius. So it wouldn't be as happy in Sagittarius that it would be in Gemini. So, and it's the same for Virgo. If you look at the opposite of Virgo, that's where, again, it would be in its detriment. So what you want to look for in a lot of things of what I do. So I do HR as my everyday job right now. And I like to look at, when I run my coworkers, they find out that I'm an astrologer. I run their natal charts, and I like to see where their Mercury falls, because that's how they learn. And when I'm training, I like to know how they are going to learn the information. So say, for instance, they have their Mercury in a earth sign. I know that they're going to be more hands-on. They're going to want to, be on the computer and actually touching and learning instead of just hearing me talk. On the other hand, air signs, Gemini, Aquarius, and Libra, they learn a little bit more by listening and processing the information mentally as they listen and hear and communicate. Then if they are a water sign, it's in the descriptive, it's how they feel, it's how their gut tells them things, how to react, and how, maybe to react to different callers on the phone, and how they should, kind of meander their way around the workplace. And then finally we have the fire signs, and the fire signs usually just want to jump right in and just try it and just, oh, I can do that, and they just want to jump right in, and they kind of want to forego a lot of the actual learning process, and they want to speed things up. So that's always great for me. As normally the person that does the training, the faster the better is always nice. So that is Mercury. So the next in our personal planets would be Venus. Now, Venus is the ruler of, again, two different signs. It rules Taurus and it rules Libra. So Venus, and so if you want to look at the opposites of those, again, it'll be in its dignity when it falls on your natal chart in the signs of Libra or Taurus. So if it is in the opposite, say if it's in Scorpio, then it's going to be in its detriment. Same if it's in Capricorn. It's not as happy in those. That's the opposite of where it feels comfortable. So just kind of want to look at that. Venus is kind of how we love, how we want to be loved, how we are in relationships, what we're looking for in a relationship. Say that you have your Venus in Capricorn. You're looking for somebody who is, you know, somebody that's going to take charge, somebody that is going to, you know, have a good career, have a focus in life, and, you know, they're going to support you. That's, you know, if you're looking for, if your Venus is in Pisces, you're kind of looking for somebody maybe a little bit different, maybe a little bit quirky, maybe someone that doesn't fit inside any box, and somebody that is, you know, their own person. So that's kind of Venus, and Venus is like a little man. There's no legs. He's just a cross and then a little circle on top. So when you're looking for your Venus, this is what you're looking for. And this cross is always at the bottom. So the next on our personal planets, we have Mars. So Mars is what is known as one of the malefics, where Venus is a benefic. So Mars is an action sign. Mars is about taking chances. It's about just going for what drives you without sometimes thinking about the consequences, and just more thinking about just doing it. Mars is the ruler, then it has two. So this one, it has, it's always going to be the ruler of Aries, and then it is the traditional ruler of Scorpio. So the nowadays ruler of Scorpio, we'll get onto that later, has a more modern ruler, but always kind of look at Scorpio like it has two. It has the modern version and it has the traditional version, which is Mars. So Mars, again, can be known as a malefic planet. Means sometimes it can be a little difficult because, you know, it's sometimes unpredictable, because if you know Mars, sometimes Aries, which is the big one that it rules, they do things without thinking it through. So sometimes they might be a little brash. Sometimes there might be fighting involved. It might, you know, get tension. You might bring up tension. There might be arguments. For instance, the Mars has been crossing over my sixth house, which is my house of work, it's pets, it's and it's been in there for about 8 months now. So we had a long retrograde. It's finally moving forward. It's getting really slow start moving forward, but it is finally moving out of Gemini, which I cannot wait because I need it out of my sixth house. I have another video coming up that's going to kind of explain the whole pets and the Mars and Gemini and how that has affected me and how it might have affected you, and just kind of seeing how it works in actual life. At my work, for instance, there's been a lot of stress, a lot of kind of infighting and things like that going on within everybody in the office. If you've ever worked in an office, this kind of thing happens all the time. I'm used to it. I've been there for years, but this time it's just been a little bit different, and it's been a long time coming, so we're looking forward to Mars getting out of there. That's going to be nice. So those are our personal planets. So our personal planets, again, first we have our luminaries, which are the sun and the moon. Then we have our personal planets, which are Mercury, Venus, and Mars. And if I didn't say it before, Venus is actually one of the benefics. If you have a night chart, that means if the sun is below your horizon. So if you look at the natal chart, anything that's on the bottom, if your sun appears on the bottom, it's going to be your major benefic. And if it's on the top, it's going to be, Jupiter's going to be your major benefic. So, speaking of Jupiter, we're going to move on to our social planets. So our social planets are Jupiter and Saturn. So they're not quite an outer planet, but they're kind of like, you know, how we kind of get along in the world, and you know, how we are perceived in the world, how we perceive ourselves. It's just kind of like, you know, just social. So Jupiter is the major benefic usually in the natal chart. Jupiter means prosperity, it means abundance, it means being bigger than life. It's, if you think of even what Jupiter looks like, it's the biggest planet. So everything is blown up. So again, depending on where this falls in your chart is what in your life sometimes can be over the top. So now it's a little, looks kind of like a 4, but like with a little scoop here, like a little sickle almost, but it's kind of like a 4. So that's what Jupiter looks like. Now Jupiter again rules 2 different signs. The major ruler is Sagittarius, and the traditional rulership, it also ruled Pisces, but Pisces now in the more modern time is now with our newer planets or the outer planets, they have their own rulerships in these couple planets, like the same as Scorpio and Jupiter, and then we'll come to find out with Saturn. But Jupiter in traditional ruled, well, it always rules Sagittarius, and it always, and it's the traditional ruler of Pisces. So, being that it rules Sagittarius, if you know a Sagittarian, they are very big, they have a lot of presence to them. All the Sagittarians I know, they usually make their presence known. You know they're there, their ideas are what should be the ideas, and they want to convince you what makes their ideas what everything should be. It's like, here's the way it is, and this is the way you should think, and they pretty much think that, and then their pipe dreams are always a little bit bigger with, wanting to travel, wanting to learn more, wanting to see the world, and I want to know everything I can know about these subjects, and everything's so big and on a grand scale. So that's a little bit about Jupiter. So then our next on our social planets is Saturn. Now Saturn does get a bad rap. It is known as the major malefic, which is the kind of the difficult one. Saturn is about boundaries. If you think about Saturn, before the outer planets were discovered, Saturn was pretty much the last one that you could really see, even with the naked eye, but with like a basic telescope. So it kind of was the gatekeeper. It kind of kept everything beyond its borders, and it was at the end. It was the end. It was finale. It was about rules and regulations and following the rules, and this is the way things are, and structure, and we want to build structures, have a good foundation. So Saturn kind of gets a bad rap of being kind of like hard ass, I guess you could say, but I always like Saturn. I think, I guess it's because I have my rising sign in Capricorn, and Saturn rules Capricorn. It is also the traditional ruler of Aquarius, but nowadays the more modern ruler of Aquarius is Uranus. So when you look at the rules, when you think of Aquarius and when you think of Capricorn, they're very different. Capricorn is much like what you would picture Saturn being like. They're structured. They have a good foundation. They have, they have everything planned out. So if you were going to, say, build a house, you would want Capricorn to come and be your architect, and because they're going to know exactly what the permits need to be. They're going to have everything pulled and ready. They're going to know what the regulations are, how high ceilings have to be, how far apart, wood has to be, or whatever. All the fine tuning of building a house. Then, when it comes to actually building it, they're also, they are the ones that are the hard workers. You would also, maybe have another earth sign come in, like a Virgo or a Taurus, because they're going to plug away and they're going to make it perfect. And then, of course, when it comes to the decorating, we're going to go back to one of our personal planets, and we would probably go for more something that is ruled by Venus, or someone that's ruled by Venus, which is of love, beauty, and all that's, money even. So you want to know that you're spending the right amount. You don't want to go over the top, but you also want it to be beautiful, and you want everything to feel good inside. Especially, Venus also, especially Venus as being the ruler of Taurus. Taurus has a love for food and drink, and so your kitchen's going to be fantastic, and you probably have a couple wine racks hanging around, and you're gonna have big stoves. You're gonna love cooking, and so that's kind of like when you think of the structure. So Saturn, again, gets a bad rap in your chart. Sometimes it can represent your father, and that shows a strictness, shows a maturity. Saturn's about maturity. It's about older people. Even it can represent a grandfather or somebody, an older role model in your life. So there's lots of things that Saturn can represent, but again, it's kind of like a cross, and it's got like a little hook coming off of it. So kind of an H with a cross on it. So this is the glyph for Saturn, and that's what you're going to look for to find your Saturn in your natal chart. So next we are moving on to what are called the outer planets. So the outer planets are the ones that had to be discovered once telescopes got really strong, and we could never see them with the naked eye. We would have to have something enlarging it and bringing it closer to our eye so we could actually see it. So the first one we have after Saturn of our outer planets, and they're also not only the outer planets, but they're known as the generational planets. So when you think about, say, Generation X, Generation Z, baby boomers, all those generations are usually have their outer planets, especially Neptune, Pluto, in the similar sign, because it takes even Pluto 20 years to go through a sign. So that's they're generational planets. So most people in the same generation have the same or similar outer planets. They take so long to move around the solar system. So this one here is Uranus. So Uranus is about change, and wherever that might fall in your natal chart is somewhere where you're going to see a big change, a big sudden change. So now this could be, it's not a finality type change. It's more of just kind of like a spur, like a electric. It reminds me of electricity, of thunderbolts and like lightning, and something that kind of jerks you and gets makes a change. It's like, it falls into your 7th house, and you break up with your boyfriend, and then so that's kind of it's just about sudden change. Now Uranus, it is the traditional ruler of it's not a traditional ruler of anything. It's the modern ruler of Aquarius. So if you think about Aquarius and the humanitarians, you can see kind of how this could be the ruler of that also. So a little bit of Saturn, a little bit of Aquarius, kind of, these are the rules, but they're different rules. They're these rules, and we're changing the rules. And so I think if you think of especially the outer planets as a blend of the signs they rule, they make a lot more sense than when you think of them just alone. When you think of Saturn, you think of seriousness. When you think of Uranus, you don't really think of seriousness. You know they are the ones that are out protesting, and they want change, and they want to bring the change. So Uranus is about change, but they want to have this change have rules and new laws, and they want to change the laws. And it's kind of where you see the blending of the two. You see a little bit of Saturn and a little bit of Uranus with Aquarius. So, that's kind of what Aquarius is all about. Lots of sudden change. Can be a little bit scary when you see that one coming up. When you see that one hitting a house, you don't know. If it hits your 6th house, am I going to have a health issue? Am I going to, if it hits your 10th house, am I going to lose my job? Am I going to get a raise at my job? Am I going to, 2nd house, am I going to lose a bunch of money? That type of thing. So, you just never know. It's unpredictable. So next on our outer planets, we have Neptune. Neptune, when I see the symbol, I just think of, water and the god of water. Of course, Neptune is the modern ruler of Pisces. So Pisces, is all about water. It's all about boundarylessness, kind of having no boundaries, kind of like a smoke and mirrors, and that's all what Neptune's all about. It's like a big gas giant, they call it, and so it's kind of, you don't know where the outside of it is. It's just, is this the outside? Is it just clouds and fog? You're just never really sure. So, for instance, if you, going back to relationships, if you have Neptune in your 7th house, you sometimes might be a little bit gullible when it comes to relationships. You might sometimes fall for things, or have visions and thoughts of what illusions or even delusions about what you think a relationship is going to be. And sometimes it takes a good transit or of maybe Saturn to kind of set you straight, so you know exactly what you're thinking about and what you're doing. So, it's about kind of not having boundaries. If you think of Pisces, it's the fish that are kind of just swimming one way, the other way. It's kind of aimless, all over the place. So you can see how that would be the modern ruler. With Jupiter as its co-ruler of Pisces as its traditional ruler, you can kind of see the blending of those two as well, where Jupiter is kind of the, big and expansive, and where you maybe even, it's so expansive you can't see the boundaries, you can't see where it ends. So it's so big, like if you're looking off of a tall mountain and you're looking at, the horizon, and it's just, the expansion is, you see forever, and that's kind of what you would think of what a Jupiter with Neptune co-rulership would be. That expansion, that never ending. When you've ever been on a cruise and you're out in the middle of the ocean and all you see is ocean, you can't see anything else. That right there is exactly what I think of when I think of a co-rulership between Jupiter and Neptune. It's just that expansion and just that boundaryless, no end in sight. And our final outer planet is Pluto. So Pluto has a couple different pictures. It has this one, it's a very religious looking symbol almost to me. It's kind of holding a ball, and it's on the cross. The other glyph is the P with the little L on the bottom. So either one you want to use, they both work. But you want to learn them both because sometimes the different books you look at, they have the different pictures, or the different glyphs, and you want to, be able to pick them out. So if you're looking and you're used to seeing this one, and then all of a sudden you see this thing come along, you're like, what is that? Okay, so they're both Pluto. So Pluto is the modern ruler of Scorpio. Now Scorpio, same as Pluto, is about similar to Uranus with change, but this is a change you can't come back from. So it has a lot to do with maybe even death, rebirth. If Pluto is crossing, there's going to be some huge change. It's going to take a while to happen. Again, it takes about 20 years to get through a sign. So depending on what you have in that sign is how it's going to affect it. So if you have something in the sign that's passing through and it's about halfway, then it's going to take 10 years, and then the after effects are going to be about 10 years. That's what we call transits. Now in your chart, Pluto is a lot to do with going deep, going down to the deepest, darkest areas, wanting to know so much about a topic. It's almost about obsession. It's about the deep passion of, I need to dig in and find out. Kind of even what you think of with archaeology, something like that. So just getting right down the dirt, really digging in, trying to find out and trying to learn as much as you can. So when you think about Scorpio, Scorpio is the same way. It gets really deep. It's a very deep feeling sign where this is a very deep planet. Any big transits, where it falls in your natal chart is going to be kind of a big area for you, especially if it's close to something else. So if this is close to your, let's say your Venus, you're going to get in deep in relationships. Sometimes that's going to be bad because you could become obsessive. You can be compulsive. You could be extremely jealous and possessive. If you say have it go with we'll say your Mars. So with Mars, it could make you act out. It could make you, physically, almost want to hurt and go deep. And during fighting, maybe you'll really go for the gut, and you'll go for that, something that is going to make somebody feel bad and hurt them. And maybe it's something that won't be able to be repaired. Because when we think about Pluto, we think about, endings. So if you do have something like that, it could cause an ending that you might never recover from in either a relationship or something like that. So that's about it with the planets and their glyphs. I hope you learned something today. I'm having a lot of fun doing this little series for you. So remember to subscribe to my channel, and if you enjoyed this series, then please hit the little bell, and then you'll get notified of any more upcoming videos. And I thank you so much for being with me today. Have a great day. Bye-bye.